Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. Yes, I have a head cold. Yes, it's not COVID. And yes, this is coffee. But today I want to talk about the 5 reasons people message me the most often about on why they can't get their arrows or their bows set up to tune. I want to talk about these because I get messages about these daily, weekly, monthly. They just keep piling up in that Facebook, Instagram, email, whatever it may be. And I would like to just kind of make an all-encompassing video real quick about these 5 top reasons and why particularly these 5 kind of be the ones that pop out and come through the most. Reason number 1, you are bucking the bell curve. You are building an arrow that is outside of the statistical bell curve of what the industry builds their arrows and bows to be used for. Now, before you get your panties in a wad, let me explain. All industries, no matter what they are, have a bell curve. The expected amount of the most people are going to use this car, this piece of furniture, this article of clothing, whatever it may be, right here in the middle. Now, as somebody like me, I sit on the far end of a lot of bell curves just based on my size. So for like tree stand weight capacity, the draw length of bows, the spine of arrows, so on and so forth. So I actually kind of sit at one end of the bell curve. If you're on the short end of the bell curve, I feel for you. What I'm trying to say is that the industry does not build your arrows and your bow setup with the expectation that you're going to be shooting 350 grains with like 7% FOC or 600 grains with like 22% FOC. They don't really play to the ends of the bell curve. And I'm sorry if I'm lighting up people's PTSD from their high school and college statistical classes. When you start building arrows that are in the median of a lot of different things or in the range of a lot of different medians of the bell curve, if you will, I'm talking about 400 to 550 grains and anywhere between about like 9 to 15% FOC. You build an arrow that's in there, I will guarantee you can get that sucker to tune in a day, if not a half hour, 15 minutes. The bows and the arrows that are built, for example, here's like a Sirius Supernova, stock length, 300 spine, 125 grain point. Very bell curve feel. Here is a Sirius Orion, a 166 arrow. I've got the footer as well as 100 grains up here and a lighted knock. This thing's about 16% FOC, about 476 grains. This is a Victory V-Force. It comes to about 485 with a lighted knock, standard insert, 125 grain point. And then here we have an Easton Axis, 300 spine, regular 100 grain point, and usually a lighted knock up here. This is about 9%, 8.5% FOC, and about 470 grains. All 4 of these arrows are bell curve arrows for somebody like me. In that 450 to 500 grain weight range, all 300 spine, all with a normal amount, what you would stock build amount of FOC or front end weight. These arrows tune like a dream. I've never had an issue with any of these arrows, or really any arrows that I've chosen to build within the bell curve. They really all just flow really easy. It's a real simple tuning process. But when I try to tune something that's really light and really fast and really erratic for 3D, you know, getting sub 400 grains or really close to 400 grains and a lower amount of FOC, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Same thing's true on the other end. I start putting 250, 300 grains up front for somebody in my dynamics and my dynamic spine range for my arrows, and I'm starting to get a little bit more fickle on that end as well. And so when people message me, are like, hey, I'm trying this arrow either for 3D, because that's where we're in right now. We're in that late spring, early summer season for 3D. People are starting to get into it. Or they're starting to build their arrow for the fall already, and they're going 600, 650, 700 grains. And they're like, wow, it's not the same as tuning my regular arrows. And that is very true, because the industry doesn't build your bow and build your arrows with the expectations that you're going to live as the average person, that you're going to live on either end of the spectrum. Not saying you can't, not saying you shouldn't, but I'm just telling you, it's a really common thing. Reason number 2, you shoot a short axle-to-axle bow, and it drives me insane that archery companies are swinging back towards the shorter axle-to-axle bow. Matthews just came out with their V3, which is a 27, and their V3 31, also still pretty short. PSE's been known to make 28-inch bows. Hoyt's makes 30-inch bows. Elite had their Cure, which is a little bit less than 32 inches axle-to-axle. The shorter you get an axle-to-axle and the longer you get in draw length, the more acute it's going to be, and a lot easier it is to move a shorter, lighter axle-to-axle bow than a longer, heavier one. This is why target archers shoot stuff that's 36, 37, 39, even 40. Matthews makes the TRX 40 inches axle-to-axle. It's really hard to move that and sway that, right? Pick up a arrow which is really short, and try to move it, and then pick up a dowel rod of the same diameter, the same weight, but make it almost 4 feet long, 3.5 feet long, and you'll see the drastic difference in how difficult it is to move that angularly. Again, I've tuned short axle to axle bows. For me, I've had a PSC Bow Madness XX with about 28, 29 inches axle to axle when I first started the channel years ago. Shot bullet holes with that thing, no problem, shooting 30 inches of draw length. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm just saying it causes a lot of fickle problems. Reason number 3, a lot of people are starting to watch guys like Chris B, John Dudley, so on and so forth, and so they are really trying out thumb and hinge style releases, and this is causing some tuning issues that they didn't foresee because they've never used a handheld style release before. When you have a new handheld style release, because you're no longer anchoring back here and using an index finger style trigger release, which is the most common for hunting and just in general, when you go with a handheld style release, now you're pushing it more into your face more. You got to find a different anchor point, and it causes a lot of people to have different anchor points and different amounts of face pressure. I have a video on face pressure. I'll throw a card up here and a link in the description below if you're interested on how deadly face pressure can be. But when you go to a handheld style release in particular, you have to be really intimate with your face because your anchor point's different. Not only that, but it also could change your draw length, it could change your D-loop length, and it'll definitely change your peep height going from that index style to a handheld of some sort. So all of these factors will affect your accuracy, they'll affect your tune, and they'll affect your comfort level. People don't really understand this. Totally fine, totally understandable you don't understand it. You've never done it before, but it's something to watch out for when you can't get stuff to tune right. Reason number 4, and for some reason people never put any thought into the actual thing that's flinging the arrow anymore, but your bow has gone out of time, or tune, whatever you want to call it. Very common for the string to stretch, the cable to stretch, so on and so forth, and just a 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch of timing adjustment, which is like 1 to 1.5, maybe 2 twists of a cable, can drastically throw off your tune. You can be shooting bullet holes, everything's doing well, and then if you have an older set of string cables on your bow, or that brand new set that hasn't really kind of settled and broken in yet, it takes one little gap of that limb stop or that cable stop being off. Now the cams aren't spinning at the exact same time, and now you're no longer shooting bullet holes. And then, because people seem to be kind of naive as to the giant machine that they're holding in their hand anymore, people just say, like, all right, I'll just change the arrow. Well, don't change the arrow. Get your bow back to where it's supposed to be. Go to your local shop or make a $30 DIY drawboard. Links. Make that drawboard, check your timing, and if you see that one cam is coming in hot, meaning it's touching on its full rotation before the other one, you know that you have a bow that is out of time. Take it to your local shop or get yourself a press. You can use a Bowmaster portable bow press if you have a safe enough bow, or the Cinam, the Nighthawk, or if you want to get like something like the Easy Green. I think it's worth the $400 investment. Add a twist or two, get your bow back in time, and everything will be squared away. You don't have to fuss about making new arrows, this, that, and the other thing, moving your rest. Just put your bow back to where it was and where it was supposed to be, and everything will be just fine. Last but definitely not least, your grip, your grip, your grip, and your grip. I get messages from people all the time. They'll shoot the same arrow through paper. It'll tear this way, then down, then up, and then side. And they're like, what's going on? Am I getting some rest clearance? Is my bow doing something wrong? I'm like, no, it's you. And that's okay. I would much rather have me be the problem because I can move. This piece of metal, carbon, and graphite, it's not going anywhere. Sure, there's some tuning things I can do with it, but me, on the other hand, there are infinite things that I can do with my wrist position, with my bow arm, with everything that goes on my shooter end. And where your face comes in contact back here, like I was alluding to earlier with the handheld style release, and where I grip the bow up front, those two things are the only points of contact that I have with the bow. And if I'm not being consistent, not really settling in and finding that grip this way, finding the grip this way, those two axes are huge as an archer. The moment you lock those in and you find that repeatable, every single time consistent grip, both vertically and horizontally, you're going to be in such a better place. You can get anything to tune at that point. You'll be Jesse Broadwater, Levi Morgan, Danny McCarthy, Paige Pierce. I mean, you'll be slamming X's out of paper and hitting the 12 ring on a 3D target. I guarantee it. So that's all for this video. Real quick, I'll throw the top 5 here up on the screen. There are lots of other reasons why you can't get your arrow and bow to cooperate with you, but these are the most common. And if you have any questions on these things that are most common, or maybe you think you have a problem currently going on or something you just overcame that you think is really common, follow the links in the description below. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, send me an email, or post it for the world to learn from right here on YouTube in the comment section. Hope you're able to get outside, enjoy enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, and we'll get to see you next time.